Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's 9:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on this Thursday, September the 23rd, 2021. My name is Dave McRae, and this is going to be a fun chat tonight. Hopefully, for those of you that can tune in, I know it's around dinner time on the West Coast, and of course, if for viewers overseas, it is quite late, like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I have a guest on the show today by the name of David Fernandes. He is a Canadian director and filmmaker based here in the GTA in Toronto. And I'm excited to have him on because I'm just in the middle of getting to know him over the last little while. And he's got a new web series coming out. The first episode is tomorrow, called Creepy Bits, a web horror web series, however you want to put it. And these are like 2 to 3 minute short, creepy shit. Okay, that's what this is. But let me tell you a little bit about David. David Fernandes is an award-winning Canadian genre filmmaker focused on creating original sci-fi, horror, thriller, and suspense films and TV. Current projects as of the fall of 2021. He's also a member of the DGC, the Directors Guild of Canada. David produced and directed original short series Creepy Bits, which is launching tomorrow, Friday, September 24th, 2021. I believe, David can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe at 9:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. David is also co-developing a 1-hour teen TV horror drama series called Limbo. He's in the middle of developing that. He's also seeking producing partners for his original 1-hour sci-fi TV series Meld, which, by the way, you can also catch that concept trailer on YouTube as well. And he is currently pitching revenge horror feature Mara, is that right, David? Mara, am I saying that? Mara, okay, you can't hear him yet, but he says yes, that's it. Mara Slaughter. Whenever you put a slaughter in there somewhere, it's good shit. Anyways, I'm excited to have David on the show today. Let me bring him on. There he is. Wait a minute. Let me make sure people can hear you. There you go. Hey, David, my man. Thanks for coming on. I can't wait to talk to you. This is exciting. Welcome.
Hey, how you doing, Dave? Man, you sound like a radio host or something. Like,
I know.
You got the earphones.
It's
studio,
gross.
The whole thing. It's amazing.
It's gross. I got to get people excited. That's what it is.
Oh yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm just listening. I'm like, wow, this is gonna be so good.
This is great. I tell people all the time, like, I'm theatrical, and not that I'm not a theatrical person, actually in real life, but I sometimes will overdo it for the show and be theatrical and animated and all this kind of stuff. There's many times where I'll be done and I'll leave and I'll go sit on the couch and I'll be like, I'm exhausted, like absolutely exhausted.
My 5-year-old's like that too. She's like, and then.
Yep, that's what it is. Because when you're riding solo and you start here and you're here for like 2 hours, it's like that's it. You know what I mean? But thanks for coming on. This is awesome. We had talked about doing this, I guess, about 3 or 4 months ago when we first spoke. Myself and you and Bruce talked, and you were letting us know your thoughts on It's Me, Billy, and which was great feedback, by the way, which is really cool. And you've had a chance to work with Greg Bennett, obviously, who you've known him for years, and he shoots, I would say, maybe most of your stuff. Maybe perhaps
everything narrative for sure, and then almost all of the commercial and corporate stuff that I've done as well. So
very cool. Greg, for those of you that don't know, shot It's Me, Billy.
Not available, but yeah,
very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, so that was a sort of a connection that was established, which was really great. And I remember you, before we get into Creepy Bits, though, I do remember you telling me about Creepy Bits and how you guys were essentially in pre-production, I think, at that time, and you were sort of rolling along, getting ready to shoot it, and so now that it's kind of already here, it was really quick. But I mean, mind you, they are sort of small, self-contained shorts. But when you sent us the link to the trailer, I was like, already? I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah, it was fast, man.
This is really cool.
Fast.
But we will get into all that for those of you that want to know all that. Let's start with getting to know you. And this is kind of cool because, you know, I'm going to learn a lot about you here for the first time. Like, this is, I mean, it's not like we've known each other for a long time.
No,
so
not very long at all.
that's kind of how, or kind of the reason why I wanted to ask you these things too, because, you know, help the audience get to know who you are and for me as well. So let's start, David. Let's talk a little bit about why movies. Where did you get from there to here? I know my journey in my head, but what about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I picked up on it pretty young. Like I didn't have a video camera when I was young, but I had friends who did. Like I grew, like I'm 48, so I was born in 63. Like video cameras really only became kind of a household thing, like, you know, sort of in the early 80s and whatever. And they were quite expensive, and VCRs were expensive. And I grew up in a middle class household, but my dad, I don't know, he never saw the value of spending money on stuff like VCRs and cameras and stuff. But I had friends who had them, and we were super into just doing silly stuff with it at first, right? Because we were like 8, 9 years old. And we were really into like Super Dave Osborne and all of his like crazy antics. He'd like, you know, and it was like bad, really bad editing, really bad stunts. And to us, it was just like the funniest thing ever. So we would just like, we would do our own versions of that. Like my friend had like a TV antenna on his house, and we'd send him up on the TV antenna and then stop the camera and then like replace him with a dummy that had like a balloon head with a big smiley face on it. And then, you know, roll the camera again and he'd fall. And then we cut the camera. We did all the editing like right in the video camera. And then we watch it back and we were just like, we were like throwing up laughing. Like it was just, to us, it was like the funniest thing ever. And this friend of mine moved away from that house. His dad died when he was pretty young, like 12 or 13. And they moved out of that house, and he thought that he'd lost all those tapes. He'd left them somewhere in the house and they were gone. And I talked to him a few months ago and he found them. So he found all of these silly like movies that we made as kids, and so I'm trying to coordinate with him to go pick them up. And when I do, I'm gonna digitize them and
of course
in like 30 years. But
you know, David, sorry, no, I just wanted to say that it's so cool hearing you say that, but yet not a surprise either. Because, you know, Bruce and I, when we were making movies together in the early 90s, we were doing the same thing. We had, you know, the high 8 camcorder and we would edit in the camera. And we were making, kids today just don't know what they have, man. I mean, they don't know the ease of what like we would and then the worst part was, because you were editing in the camera, if you didn't get it to the right spot, you'd see a little snippet of the take before and you're like, no,
I know, and then you have to go back and do it again.
Yes, but we had this movie we did called The Night He Came Back, and it was an extension by one word from the subtitle of the original Halloween. Oh, sorry, actually, no, excuse me, one word less than the subtitle of the original Halloween, which was The Night He Came Home. Ours was called The Night He Came. And sorry, The Night He Came Back was the sequel. But we had this scene where I was playing sort of the Michael Myers character, and I was being shot, you know, 6 times by, you know, right? I'm backing up towards a window, and we would cut, and we built this dummy. And then we just had like threw the dummy out the window, you know, and shot. Exact same thing. Like it's remarkable to hear, you know, what we were all doing in and around that same time. Filmmakers that would go on to actually work in the business, we all sort of have similar stories. You know, it's fascinating to hear. So I just wanted to add that. I just was like, that's amazing. That's hilarious. I totally can relate.
And when we talk about, you know, editing with this old technology now, it sounds like we had to forge our videos. Like you
in the
know, like
fire.
hammers and it all just sounds so crazy now. But yeah, I mean that's what we had, you know, like and our I had other friends with cameras too, and that was the, you know, like one of them would like, it would take like an impression of black and white, so we can make titles. Like if you'd write stuff on paper, you could like take an impression of it, and then it'd be, you know, on the camera and stuff. But at some point, you know, obviously all the digital stuff came along, and that was amazing.
Changed the game.
Like, and you could do that on your computer, and that and have so much more control over it and everything else. But,
unreal.
Yeah, that's kind of where it started for me, was just fooling around with other people's cameras. I never had one of my own until I was much older. So, yeah.
Amazing. And did you end up going to film school?
Yeah, in a couple of different ways. I went to the University of Toronto originally to study English, and then I bounced around all over the place, and I kind of winded up in the cinema studies program. So that's actually what I graduated in, but that's not a practical course. That's like theory and history and that kind of thing.
Right.
And it was good. Like I appreciated it. It was fun to like write about films and think about films on a deeper, kind of more philosophical level. But I also wanted to do production, so I went to Ryerson as well, just for a semester to do like a 16 millimeter course. So I still have all my like 16 millimeter Ryerson student films, and they're awful. One day we should do a screening.
Do you have like the reels?
Oh yeah,
the reels, yeah.
Projector in the other room too, yeah. And there's something on it. I don't even know what I left on it. It's getting baked in the sun right now, but there's some work print on there from something.
Amazing. I wish I had mine. I shot a movie. I don't have the actual. It was first year film. I don't have. It was 16 as well. I don't have the film. But I think I might have my first, because they started us off with like a 1 minute silent film. You know what I mean? Let's just start you slow. You know what I mean? And so we did one called Flower Power, and it was funny. I don't know if I have it somewhere, but again, I totally, that's hilarious. That's amazing.
Yeah, and so the first editing I ever did was on the Moviola. You know, like the little like reel to reel thing with the little like razor, the Mylar tape.
That's it.
And all that kind of stuff. And right at the same time, like the nonlinear editors were starting to become a bit of a thing,
right?
And that's around the time that I met Greg. Actually, like he was working at a place that I had some access to, and he had a studio, you know, full of like racks and racks of video equipment with big shiny buttons and knobs and all this stuff. And I was just like, who is this wizard? You know,
it's it. Yeah,
this like magic control room.
Who's this man?
Yeah, and so I'm 11 years younger than Greg, right? So, so I, at the time that I met him in my 20s, I was like, wow, this, you know, like, that was so cool to see all that stuff. But yeah, no, we ended up becoming friends, and he ended up hiring me to work on a project with him, and then we never stopped working together. So, you know, that was like 1999. So.
Yeah, 99. That was I was well into college. I was rocking that Steinbeck. I was, you know,
the Steinbeck. Yeah, I never got into the sound editing stuff so much.
Yeah,
but it was that was the start. Yeah, and the smell of it too, like the smell of the developed film. And,
right.
The whole thing about it was even the smell of the grease on the cameras, like that we'd have to use little like wind up like Bell and Howell little cameras with like the 3 little lens turret thing.
Yep. And it's amazing how, you know, I learned very early on how expensive film is, and how you pay for it by the foot, you know, or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, like, you know, and our professors were like, now we don't have a lot of this shit, you know. And it was like, okay, because didn't want us fooling around, because you didn't have, you know, an endless supply, right? So that's amazing. So why horror and sci-fi? What, I mean, you know, you could say to me, like, you know, when I think of, if somebody were to ask me that thing, You know, I can't pinpoint the exact moment. I think, you know, a lot of boys were into that kind of thing, maybe when we were younger. Certainly, you know, as a young boy growing up through the 1980s, I remember being into, you know, Freddy Krueger and, you know, and Friday the 13th and Halloween and whatnot. And I always just really appreciated, well, maybe not at that time, I just thought it was cool, you know. But as I became a teenager and certainly as an adult, and I've gotten older, I've really sort of just, I love the horror genre. As I get older, I tend to be more attracted to the psychological you know, the psychological horror and the nuance and all that kind of stuff rather than blood, guts, and gore.
Mm-hmm.
Not that that doesn't have a place, but I'm definitely can relate to you as a fellow horror film guy. What for you has attracted you to the horror genre? What do you like about it?
That's a good question. I like that you can pretty much do anything, right? Like I mean, it's a genre, I guess, but like, you know,
It's got
like
probably the
like,
most subgenres.
Yeah, there's so many subgenres. There's so many different types of horror. Like,
Yeah,
you know, like having some sense of tension and suspense and payoff, you know, are obviously critical to it as a genre, as a thing to call it horror on some level. But
right.
in terms of what you can do with it and what the rules are, you know, like it's totally just, it's a open space. There's, you know, like fantasy horror, sci-fi horror, like body horror, like you just go on and on and on and on and on. And so anything that I think that you want to, as a filmmaker, I think it's kind of liberating on some level, right? Because like, you know, like I think other things, other types of genres and stuff are a lot more restrictive in terms of what the rules are and how you're going to do it and the way that you're going to do it and stuff like that. You know, like I find comedy really stressful. Like I co-directed a comedy with a friend of mine, and I'm just like, this is hard. This is actually like really hard, you know, because it's like, it's all about the delivery, it's the timing, it's like all these other kinds of things that are in the performance that, you know, like, and it's not to say that horror is easier, because horror has its own, I think, like challenges to do it. But I think you can make horror films that are successful without having big stars, without necessarily having the most original premise that ever existed. Like people are willing to kind of watch the same thing, but like something a little bit different about it, you know? So I think like there's a familiarity about it. There's a repetition.
There's definitely repetition.
Yeah, there is, but you still watch it anyway, and you still enjoy it. Like I do, right? Like I'm just okay. I've seen this, but I'm like watching it again because I just really like watching it, you know. So
well, it's the journey, isn't it?
It's what, sorry?
It's the journey. You know, I think I think you know, to your point, horror is probably the funnest genre to work in, because to your point, I mean, there's so many different subgenres, and you know, there are rules within different genres, but it's, you know, you can take probably the most creative liberties within the horror genre, and I love it because I love affecting people's emotions and being able to, you know, create something that, and to watch an audience respond to it in a way that is so sort of physiological almost, you know what I mean? There's you know, it really elicits an emotional response, you know, from the audience, you know, whether that's fear or, you know, you know, whatever it is, and just to be able to, and who doesn't like to, well, I guess not everybody, but certainly I think we all, and it's probably the most, funny enough, it's probably the most relatable genre because we're all essentially, by and large, afraid of the same things, you know, and it's great to have that emotional impact, you know, and I'm a big, you know, fan of mood and atmosphere, so I like creating that.
And it's interesting. Like my the first short film that I did, Rewire, opened for the Toronto premiere of The Human Centipede. And this is the first time this film's being shown in Toronto was at the After Dark Film Festival. It's 800 people in a theater.
Right.
And people are just howling through like the most disgusting, like uncomfortable parts of it, right? And that's so much a part of the experience of it as well, is being with a group of people and putting you in these like, I don't want to see somebody's like mouth, somebody's ass, right? Nobody
Absolutely.
wants to see that, but you see it together, and you're just like, you know, and
A
it's like it's
hun-
part, and that's so much a part of it. And like, what other genre can you do that with, really? Like, and have that kind of like have that experience together in the same kind of a
you
way,
know,
you know? People are laughing through these things that are really just absolutely terrible, you know?
absolutely. There's no experience really at the end of the day that I can
Yeah,
think of like
yeah,
watching it's not every horror movie.
yeah,
And it's not every time. I mean, there has to be some variables in there, like, the movie's hopefully, good and the theater's packed and, but there's nothing like a theater being packed with a
yeah,
good
yeah,
horror movie.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And the responses
yeah.
from the audience,
Oh
the
yeah, yeah,
electricity, that you
yeah,
feel
totally,
from the
yeah,
audience
yeah,
is it's unlike really any other genre in film. Seeing it in the theater,
yeah.
I mean
Yeah,
I've
and
seen
I'm glad I saw that with 800 other people, you know,
yeah,
rather
that
than
would have
just
been
seeing it by
amazing.
myself at home, because I'd be like, okay, yeah, I mean, like it's good, but it's like when you
Yep.
watch it with 800 other people, you're just like, yeah, you know,
Yes.
you
Oh,
get a totally different experience of it. So
if
it's like
I
it's like a live performance almost. Like,
if I get a chance to make a movie that has like a wide release, I'm going to be
yeah,
one of those guys that's
yeah,
going to like go into the theater at the back, and I'm
yeah,
just going to sit there at the back and
yeah,
just,
yeah,
cross my
yeah,
fingers and hope everybody responds at the moments you want them to respond to,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
going to be that
totally.
guy.
Yeah.
Totally. So look out for it, folks. Just saying. What are some of your favorite horror movies? Like when you think of horror, and we can include
Yeah,
sci-fi horror in there too, because I know you're a big sci-fi fan, and
yeah, yeah,
and there
I
is
am.
some
Yeah,
overlap.
yeah,
There's
there
definitely
is.
some overlap.
Yeah,
There's distinct
yeah,
sci-fi films only, but there's a lot of
yeah.
overlap. They're definitely cousins.
Oh
Um,
gosh, yeah,
what are
yeah,
some of your favorite horror films? What were some of the films that influenced you as a filmmaker?
yeah. You know, because of the time that I grew up, and again, the fact that I didn't have a VCR at home, like I was watching films in friends' basements, and one of the early films that I was watching with pals was like the first Alien,
Mm,
which came out in '78, and man, like that film still like I still watch it like every year at least once, you know.
yeah,
Like just because I want to be in that world, that like the music and the kind of the pace of it, just the kind of there's so much silence, and sort of like there's a lot of parts of that film where just there's nothing happening, but you're just like, oh my god, like you know that this thing is there somewhere,
yeah.
and at some point you're gonna meet it again, and it's all about like not wanting to see the thing, you know.
That's right.
And that is like, you know, a masterful level of suspense in horror filmmaking, right? And it's something that I aspire to on some level. Like I went to film school, so I had to watch a whole bunch of old stuff, you know. So like I really loved like Rosemary's Baby and The Apartment, and
Mm, oh
some of the
yeah.
early some of his early stuff, and like there's a feeling of like there's an unsettling feeling in there, and it's not like hitting you over the head with things, and you're just like, this is all like these, you know, like these people in these situations are like they're not really sure if they're crazy, or if like everybody else is kind of, if it's them or everybody's against them, and that kind of stuff, the
Yep.
psychological horror
Yep.
that you had mentioned. And I'm really drawn to that. I'm really drawn to like Hitchcock films, and like you know, and early Polanski films, and you know, before he became a creepy asshole. um,
Yeah.
and,
Yep.
yeah, and you know, and just and in a couple, and even like, you know, Blade Runner. I know it's not horror, but you know, like between like Alien and Blade Runner, I
But the
think like
themes are
Ridley
dark.
Scott, Ridley Scott, like two
Yeah.
back hits there that really influenced me. Like the music score, from the way that music and sound effects play in Blade Runner, is one of my favorite things. Really, like that
Wow.
movie is like almost like there's a subconscious level of that movie that goes on, you know. And I've been watching it with, you know, I was watching it in my friend's basement, my musty basement in the '80s, where it was like the corny Harrison Ford voiceover version of it. Like it wasn't even the good version of it.
Right. That's right. I forgot. Yeah, there were two versions. That's right.
Oh yeah, it was really really gumshoey kind of like film noir, way more like over the top kind of film noir kind of a thing going on. And of course, when the director's cut came out, whenever that was in the 90s, it kind of interest kind of reestablished that film as something bigger. But like I think when we were watching the 80s, it was like a cool film, but it didn't really have that kind of, you know, that giant status that it does now. And that's not a horror film, but it, you know, it's in the milieu of stuff I was watching at the time, and John Carpenter stuff, like the original Halloween, like The Thing. You know, like I still have a copy of The Thing on Blu-ray and stuff, and I still pull that out.
Oh,
like,
it's great.
Like,
it's
so good, right?
It's so good. What I love about the ending of that film is you know, that's like the whole. It's like the original. It's like the ending of the original Halloween. I tell my viewers all the time that, you know, Michael Myers is gone at the end of the movie, not to set up a sequel, but to bring the message of the movie home. Because the original intent was obviously to just be one film, right? It was like a 90-minute a 90-minute Twilight Zone episode or something, right? And Laurie has an arc in that film. I mean, she doesn't believe in the boogeyman, and then by the end of the movie, she's like, it was the boogeyman. But The Thing is very similar in the sense of that when you look at the ending of that movie, neither of those two know whether they have it, and that's the whole point. And then it just cuts to black, and you're like, but that's the idea, is that I've always suspected that. I've always believed, and maybe there's an interview where Carpenter admits this, I don't know, because it is based on pre-existing material too. So, but that being said, I always, as a you know, when I was younger, I always used to think that I don't think either of them have it, but I think they're going to drive themselves crazy, not trusting the other person and killing each other anyway. And I think that's the irony of the whole thing. I bet you neither of them have it. You know what I mean? And maybe that's true. I don't know. But yeah, just such a terrific film from start to finish. Probably Carpenter's, in terms of, I mean, Halloween obviously is probably his most iconic, but The Thing is probably his most, say, polished maybe, and kind of big budget feel. I know there's, you know, Escape from New York and all that too, but there's something about The Thing that is. What
are you saying? They Live is.
Well, they Live. I just watched They Live the other night, actually. I hadn't seen it in a while, and They Live is good too. They Live. I love They Live. I want to get one of those masks and just kind of sit and do my show in those masks.
Yeah, I had a screening in my backyard when I was having backyard movies nights when I lived in Toronto. Man, it's such a gas to watch with people. It's so good. Yeah, and it's so, I mean, a lot of the, like, it's because of my age, I guess, like a lot of the stuff that influenced me is from around that time. And I was super into the Nightmare on Elm Street films, much more than like Friday the 13th and stuff. Like I kind of like the idea that something was going to get you if you fell asleep, because everybody has to sleep, right?
That's it.
Like you have to fall asleep.
You have to.
Eventually, this idea that, like, you know, like the moment you do, like something's gonna get you. It's just like, like as a kid, like, oh my god, like that we were screwed up by that film when it came out, and of course it got kind of ridiculous in the sequels and everything. But
that's an understatement, David.
Original, I mean the original one was like, I mean, you know, young Johnny Depp and everything. Like,
that's right.
Yeah.
What do you?
I had the Blu-ray collection of that, but I actually gave it to a young actor who worked on Creepy Bits, because he turned out to be a horror fan himself, and he hadn't actually seen the original Nightmare on Elm Street stuff. So I gave it to him as sort of a gift for being in the film. And he was like, his mom like thanked me out. She's like, hey, we watched the whole thing together and brought all these memories back.
You can watch the whole thing together, but you're probably only going to like the first few. But just you doing that. See, that's what's really cool about, you know, I know, you know, not even thinking of this consciously. You do this, you know he's a horror fan. You give him your Blu-ray copies of the original Elm Street series. Yeah. And, you know, that's a cool, like that, I could see that almost being a short film in and of itself.
No.
you know. No, I can't. 'Cause, like, you know, it's like this idea where this horror, like it's passing on the horror genre. You know, it's keeping it, you know, here's the, you know, here's your homework, son. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
well,
I know you didn't
again,
mean it that way, but that's what's
yeah,
so cool about it, you know, about this community in terms of the horror sort of genres, that there are things like that happen. It's such a
yeah.
it's
We
such a
want to share
different,
stuff
yeah.
that we like with other people for sure. Yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah,
100%. That's so cool. And then you'll
yeah.
get a, you know, an email from him saying, "I just liked the first one. I don't know what happened." No, what the hell? These are crap, man. What happened?
I think I made it up to Dream Warriors, and then I don't know what happened. But,
Oh,
yeah,
well, yeah. And you know what? I actually like two gets a bad rap. And
yeah,
it is
yeah,
sort of the black sheep of the family, but two,
yeah,
Freddy Krueger is
yeah.
scary in part two. He
Mhm,
looks
mhm,
fantastic.
mhm.
And Dream Warriors is the fan favorite, but
Yeah,
four is the MTV film, you know,
yeah,
and then five, I
yeah,
don't know what the hell, and six, God, but you know,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
over in
Well,
that sense.
yeah.
What do you think about The Exorcist, the original?
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, I used to have an older brother. He died when I was like 13. And he introduced, like, he made me watch when I was probably like 6 years old, like 2001 A Space Odyssey. You know, he wanted to
Mm,
introduce me to like classic films and stuff.
right.
So we would rent VCRs from like Grenada and
Yes.
like have like a movie weekend, and he made me watch 2001 A Space Odyssey with him when I was like 6, and I was just like, what's with the apes?
Yeah.
Why are they so mad? And like, it was really
What?
scary, right? Like, I'm
Right.
like, are
Right.
they ape suits? Are those people? Like, I was like, by the time we got to the science fiction part of it, I was just like, I was like too screwed up by the apes to really like pay attention. And that
Right.
movie's like 3 hours long or something, so I didn't really get it. But
Well, you're too
um,
young, right? I
yeah,
mean,
I was young. I was really young, but I remember him. I remember him talking about The Exorcist. I didn't watch it because when I was super young, because I was Catholic, and that, I mean, that movie was basically made by the devil in my house.
yeah,
So,
of course.
but I, with the moment that I did get a chance to watch it, it absolutely scared the pants off of me. And
Yeah.
yeah, it looks like that is some classic '70s horror in terms of that, just the feeling inside, you know, that you get around it. It's just like, you
Yeah.
just know, I don't know, it's like a feeling of malaise, like, you know, that something's like really wrong here, and it like,
Yes.
it takes a long time for it to kind of come out as to what it really is. And you know, this like relationship he has with this she has with this imaginary character and this stuff, and you're just like, you know, this isn't gonna go well and stuff.
Yeah.
But that, it's a long movie, you know.
It's
And
fantastic.
and it even, like, the start of it is like, what, they're in like an archaeological dig in Iran or something like that,
in
you know.
Iraq, actually.
Iraq, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's a terrific film. I mean, again, you know, my viewers are going to laugh, obviously, because I say this a lot, but it's true. It's the nuance and
Mhm.
slow burn of that movie. It takes
Yeah,
its time.
it really
It
does. Yeah.
builds, and
Mhm.
like you just said, through the entire film, I've often said some of my favorite horror films and some of the favorite and the kind of movies that I would like to create. I think Billy had a bit of that.
Yeah.
Was I love creating, or I love movies that are horror films. There's nothing necessarily particularly creepy happening on screen, but you
Mhm.
feel creeped out, or there's
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
wrong. And that's done, you
Mhm.
know, it's again, you know, that can be done through mood and atmosphere. That can be done through, you know, the lenses you decide to use, the movement of the camera. There's a number of ways, you know,
The sound
as you know,
design,
the
that's
sound
the biggest,
design.
yeah.
Absolutely. There's a number of ways you can
Here,
create that.
yeah, and Billy, I mean, one of the things that really stuck out for me with Billy was just how great the sound was. Like, you really, and
Appreciate
I
that.
know
Thank you.
that you did, I think, all of that
I
yourself.
did.
Like, yeah, and like, sound is the thing that will take like your indie, you know, low budget movie from like, yeah, okay, to like, wow, you know.
Yeah.
And it was like a wow. It was like, wow, like, like I watched it with headphones on my like OLED television, you know. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm getting like the full Monty in terms of the experience. And it's
Yeah.
because I love, you know, being immersed in a sonic world when you're watching a film, you know. And when it's not there, when it's bad, when it's like rough and stuff, it takes you out, man.
It
You can
does.
forgive the picture a little bit if it's grainy or it's not in focus or
Yeah.
whatever. But when the sound's not like right, like, it just it really, it kills
Yeah.
it, man.
I
Yeah.
appreciate you saying that. Yeah, no, that was one of the things I knew. You know, I remember our sound recordist on set, Adrian Ancona. Shout out to Adrian Ancona. He we were talking something. He was like, oh, blah blah blah. And we were talking about sound. You know, just shooting the shit about sound. And he's like, so you're gonna do all the sound in post? You're gonna mix it and all the sound? I turned. I said, oh, I'm gonna sound design the shit out of this thing. Is what I said. And because like you said, right, sound is so important, and I wanted this to feel like our goal with Billy was to shoot a $60,000 movie, but have it look and feel bigger. And that was our goal. And sound is extremely important in that, you know, like everything from, you know, the footsteps in the snow to the door opening to the, you know, the clanking of the keys or whatever, you know, and it has to be the right sounds too. Some of it was there, like it was actual fully captured on set, but I have like a library of thousands of effects. And so we were able to sort of pull from there. And sometimes you had to pull a few times because it wasn't the right sound, or I'd bring it into audition and adjust the EQ and all that kind of stuff to make kind of fit or whatever. But yeah, no, it took me, well, I guess the better part of about 4 or 5 months. So it was,
I believe it. Yeah, no, it's
tough.
Great. Yeah.
But the point I wanted to make about The Exorcist, which was so great, and I'm glad you like it as much as you do, because it's one of my faves, is that feeling of there's something off but yet nothing eerie or, you know, it's nothing weird that's happening.
No, and the music's not even like leading you that way either.
But it's this ambience, it's this feeling that's created through this slow burn as they're building and building and building. And what's great too is that it's not just about a girl, and I'm not Catholic, and it's so I relate to
God bless you.
Thank you. No, but I guess I'm trying to think. I think maybe my family was Protestant. Maybe, I mean, some, you know what I mean. Some, obviously,
Maybe.
there's maybe. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I've never been to a church service in my life. I've been to church for weddings and funerals, obviously, and but I just didn't grow up with that sort of family. But I did sort of know about what it's all about. But what I appreciate about The Exorcist so much too, and is that it's, I mean, yeah, it's, you know, you get the, you know, the girl and the head turning around and the slime and all that, and that's great. But there's real drama here, you know, with Damien and how he feels guilt over his mother's passing, and how, you know, by the end of the movie, he's saving a girl. He saves the girl, but he's never met her. He saves a girl he's never met, because by the time he meets her, she's already like halfway to, you know what I'm saying? And he doesn't, you know, at the end of that film, he's like, take me, and, you know, and then he throws himself through the window, and he's, I mean, it just, there's real drama between him and Father Marin, and the whole thing. There's a lot going on there, not just the girl in the bed with the green slime. That's great shit, but there's real drama and character there, you know, like Jaws, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway. Sorry.
No.
Shut up, Dave. I get excited when I talk to horror people.
No, it's great. I love it. Yeah. I haven't watched it. I have it on DVD somewhere, but I haven't watched it in a long time. But yeah, no, it's the first time you watch it, I don't know. And especially, you know, coming from a Catholic background, like it's the whole thing about, you know, possession and spirits and demons and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And man, that movie like shook people up, man. Like it really, yeah. Like,
did you see the documentary in '73?
In my elementary school, we weren't allowed to listen to Madonna. You know, because Madonna,
like a virgin.
No, because of the Material World song. It was like she's selling Satan, you know. And then when I got to high school, like we weren't allowed, like you couldn't find a Stephen King novel in the library, and I'm like sneaking them in. You know, I had to like put it in something else in order to like read in my high school. Right? This is like the '80s. It wasn't that long ago.
No, it wasn't.
You know? Like we went on a religion retreat once, and they brought in this Latin American priest, and they just called him Padre because, you know, father in Spanish is Padre. And this guy came in, and he's like, in Latin America in the 80s, there was all this like revolutionary Marxist stuff going on, and the priests got caught up in it, you know, and they were supporting these popular uprisings and these left-wing uprisings and stuff, and coddling like revolutionaries and hiding them in the churches and stuff. And when John Paul II came into power as the Pope, he crushed it. Like, he excommunicated all these people, and you know, the American CIA backed forces came in and like killed all sorts of people. Thousands of priests got killed, and people, and all this stuff was a bloodbath. This priest comes up to us in the middle of this, and he's like, you should be wearing condoms. You should be like, you know, doing.
And how old were you?
We're like, this guy gets us, right? And we had to have a debrief afterwards. Like, the actual chaplain at our school was like, well, you know, that's his opinion. That's not the opinion of the church and stuff. And just like, you know, kind of just let us know that, you know, this guy,
of course,
crazy opinions that were just like normal things that people would just say today. Like, yeah, you should wear a condom when you have sex. You know? Right. I mean, like, the whole position of the church is you shouldn't have sex unless you're married at all, which, you know, in high school is like,
good luck.
Sure. All right. Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're pious. We're doing that.
It's like that guy in the movie Taken when he's like, good luck.
Yeah. So yeah. So anyway, yeah, The Exorcist was, you know, that was forbidden territory.
Well, there's a documentary that you can, you know, that anybody can. Well, no, I don't know if it's a documentary. I wouldn't say that. It's just news coverage of The Exorcist being released at that time. And I mean, there are people, like, there's lineups around the block, right? Yeah. And there were people coming out of the theater early saying, I just can't. Oh God, please forgive me. I just can't. It's unreal. You know, and people were terrified because, you know, I always tell my audience, especially the younger audience, you know, you have to look at a movie, an older film, and think about it within its context. You know, like, a film may or may not be scary to you today, like Psycho or Rear Window or something, but you got to really think about Psycho was the first movie to ever, I believe the first film in North America at the very least, to show a toilet flush in a film. I mean, that's where we were in 1960 when it comes to cinema. Right, so, like, you really got to think about the context when you're watching something and think about what this would have been like 40, 50 years ago. And The Exorcist, I mean, nobody had ever seen anything like that before. I mean, now it's like, you know, there's 500 of these things. No one had ever seen that. Terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah, it totally was. And I mean, I love Psycho too. So.
Yeah, Psycho's great. Psycho's amazing. Psycho 2 is good too, actually. It's not a bad sequel.
Yeah.
It's not a bad sequel.
I saw it a long time ago. I don't remember it very well.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the Amityville Horror, the original with Charles?
Oh God, the original one scared the pants off of me. Absolutely. Yeah, at the pants. Like, I was terrified. That movie was just like it was like I regretted watching it afterwards.
Right.
I was just, I was like, because of this Catholic thing. Like, I had a lot of. You know, like when I saw the trailer for Poltergeist come out, it was on. I saw the trailer long before. It was like 2 years before I saw the movie after the trailer came out on TV. But this whole thing about the TV kind of being possessed or whatever, I was like, fuck,
right?
Because like that tube TV, you know, like when it's off, you get that kind of faint, kind of convex mirror image of the room, and you're kind of in it too. You know, and it's like it's unsettling just as it is. And in fact, a tube TV features in episode 2 or episode 3 of Creepy Bits, right? And so it's just like this stuff kind of like, I guess, like pulling up from my subconscious. Like after I'd written the episode, I'm like, oh yeah, Poltergeist. I totally forgot about it. Like,
amazing.
The whole TV thing, but it's kind of just there, right? Like you just, I don't know, like you just absorb these things.
Oh, it's awesome. Well, that's a good segue. That's a good segue into Creepy Bits. Let's talk about Creepy Bits. Let me.
Let's do that.
I'm gonna throw the trailer in the chat room link so people can see it there for those people who haven't. Here's the trailer for those of you guys that want to watch the trailer for the first season of Creepy Bits, written and directed by David Fernandes here, and shot by Greg Bennett, who also shot It's Me, Billy. So for those of you that you might notice some Gregisms Good Gregisms, Greg. I'm not saying they're good. I just, I'm like, oh, that's Greg's style. I like that. You know what I mean? It's good stuff. Greg might be watching and going, what do you mean? What the hell are you talking about? Not that you sound like that,
yeah,
Greg. I'm just being silly.
Like that's exactly.
No, that's my go-to voice for everybody. That's my go-to voice for everybody. It's like I imitate myself that way. And then I said to the lady, well, maybe you don't want it. It's just what I don't know. It's my father, I think, that is coming out and doing all these funny voices.
Yeah, I have a version of that too.
Hey man, what's going on? Everybody. So let's talk about Creepy Bits. Written and directed by you, shot by Greg. It looks amazing. It sounds really good too. And I'm really digging what I'm seeing. Now, again, for those of you that may not know what it is, tell us about Creepy Bits. Tell us about like how this came to be. What it's a great idea. And a manageable thing to do because it's relatively self-contained, short, kind of stuff. Talk to me about Creepy Bits. How did this come to be?
Yeah, it's a few different things. I think part of it was, I have a almost 6-year-old daughter now, and because of the pandemic, school over the last year and a bit has been more often closed than not. So I was just doing a heck of a lot of childcare. My wife has a pretty busy job. So I was doing, I was being daddy daycare and being the kindergarten teacher. And we had a little pot at one point where we had other kids in the mix and we were trading them off so I could try and work a little bit. But I went through like almost a year and a half of just really not being able to do anything else except just like be a dad and a teacher and stuff. And that was fine. I love my daughter and we had a lot of lovely experiences in there, but as a filmmaker, like I want to make stuff.
Of course, I want to keep those creative juices going.
Yeah, and so I'm like, I want to do something, but I've made shorts in the past, and the thing with like short films is like you're gonna make I made like 2 14-minute films, and sending those off to festivals, you're competing against like 8,000 other short films, and if you're in that over 10-minute range, like your chances of getting a slot anywhere are pretty slim, unless you've made something incredible and you've got like a huge actor in it, or you've already made stuff and people want to know about you already, right? So it's like I wanted to do something, but I didn't want to do something that I'd already done. And something that I think I've regretted a little bit in the past is just not putting stuff online and just like putting it out there for free, like that anybody can watch anytime, and like it or not, or whatever, and share it or not, or whatever, or ignore it. Like it's just like putting it out there and not having it have to go through this film festival thing, because it's expensive to be submitting to a lot of film festivals, right? Like
it can add up.
Some of them are like $8, but a lot of them are like 50, 60, 75. The kind of ones that you'd want to get into, like the established ones, are more like in the 50, 60 US dollar per submission thing, and you're not going to get into everyone. So it's just like when you're making films, you want people to see your stuff. So film festivals are one avenue in which recognition or an audience might find what you're doing, but so's the internet, and I've just always wanted to play on the internet a little bit, because I haven't done it yet, like I haven't just made something and put it out there. The first film that I did got picked up by a distribution company, so they had it for 7 years, and by the time I got it back last year, it's like, this film, I don't know, like, am I going to put it on the internet now? Like, who cares? Right?
Yes, do it.
But I made that film 7 years ago. Like, it was, one of the first things shot on a red camera, and it looked great. And it was like, it was kind of like, whoa, look what you did. And now there's people like doing entire VFX films like from their home computer.
I know.
And it's just like, oh yeah, like it's really like, it's not as good as it was like 10 years ago. It's not as unique as it was, So I just wanted to make stuff, and to make a bunch of stuff, and not just like one thing, not put all my eggs in like one story and one idea in one like longer, longer short thing, I guess.
Right.
And I've been inspired by like David F. Sandberg's like shorts. Like they're all pretty short. Like Lights Out, I thought was great. Like I'd already made my first short by the time I saw that in 2013 or whenever that came out. And I was just like, I love the simplicity of this. I love the economy of it.
Yes.
I love it. It's just short. And it starts right away. You're just right into it, and it ends and it's done. It's like 3 minutes, and I'm like, that's great. Like I love that. I love
and look what it did for him.
I mean, yeah, look what it did for him. So I love the efficiency of that, and I wanted to try and be that like that efficient, you know.
Yeah.
Not that I'm trying to make Lights Out, but I'm trying to make different things that are, you know, inspired by different things in my life and other things that I'm kind of freaked out by.
Yeah.
You know?
I was just going to ask you that if you for the first season you are obviously you're pulling, as good storytellers often do, pull from real experiences or things that they've you know heard or happened to them, or you know somebody they know that they think, oh, that, you know, I think I could turn that into like a little 2 or 3 minute short, right? I'd imagine that has happened here.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, the first episode that's airing tomorrow is about a baby monitor. You know, like, yeah, that's coming from my own life. I'm just like, you know, when you. There's something about parenting these days. You know, when we were kids, you know, like you're 42, I'm 48. We grew up around the same time. Like nobody had like surveillance on their kids, right? No. Like there were no cameras anywhere. Nobody had. I didn't have any cameras.
Well, we grew up at a time, and older than us as well. We might have been the last generation where this was a thing, but certainly I do remember that it was like, no, you only had to wear your, you know, seatbelt in the front seat. If you were in the back seat, you didn't have to wear your seatbelt.
Yeah.
You know, like what the hell? Who the hell's idea was that? Can you imagine doing that now?
And sitting in the back of people's station wagons and stuff, and or pickup trucks, and you're just like, we're just gonna go for it. And
exactly.
In the back, I'll just be like this.
Right. Okay. And let's see if this picks up where we left off. Let me just see here. It should. Wait. Yeah. We are. I think we are back. 1 second. Are we back? Let me ask the chat. Are we back? Are we back? Are we back? I don't know.
Yeah,
back.
No, we're
yes.
back.
Yes.
I can see us on the YouTube.
Okay, good. Yeah. One of my moderators, Frank Reiger, here is like, you're back. All right, we're back. All right. So anyway, sorry about that, folks. Of course, we lost about 50 people, but that's okay. What the hell? They'll come back. So where were we anyway? We were talking about creepy bits.
Man, I forgot. And, maybe somebody in the chat could tell us what the hell we were talking about.
Chat room. What
baby monitors? That's what it was.
Baby monitors. Yes. The first episode, baby monitors. All right.
That's right. Yeah. Rocket. And I was just relating, you know, how parenting these days is, you know, all about surveilling your kids and following them around everywhere, and knowing where they are every moment. And I think, you know, us growing up in the 70s and 80s, you had a bike, and that you were basically gone for the day.
Yep.
And as long as you didn't get killed, you were okay.
That's
right?
it. Like, 100%.
100%. I had railroad tracks in the behind the fence of my backyard, you know, and we would hop the fence and just go wandering for just hours, you know, alone, you know, as kids, like, you know, in these like places where there were no adults whatsoever. And I don't know, like, I never let my kid do that now, you know, like
it is.
And I don't even know how our parents allowed us.
Well, it's amazing to think that, like, the first time I watched A Nightmare on Elm Street, I think I was like, you know, 5. You know, and it's like, what the hell was I doing watching? You know, and I mean, it's just what it was. You didn't think. I mean, not every 5-year-old was watching, but you know, I've told this too. I remember. I think it was a few years before they came out with the because eventually in the late 80s they released like a Freddy Krueger costume, and it was like, you know, the latex mask with the styrofoam hat and the plastic knives or gloves. And so this was maybe a few years before that. I actually took it upon myself and I got a winter glove and I taped 4 Bic pens to the glove, and I didn't have a fedora, so I got this plastic top hat. But in my mind, I looked like Freddy Krueger.
You were Freddy
And I'm
Krueger.
walking up and down my street and I'm going like this. And my friend, Johnny is like, he's playing, the victim. I mean, the neighbors must have looked outside and wanted to call the cops and say, there's this 5-year-old with pens on a winter glove going after this child, but it was just so, we were outside all the time. All the time, man. And I mean, maybe the parents were closer than we realized, because I realized that, like, when I'm watching my kid, she has no idea. Like, I'm just not, I could be like right beside her. She wouldn't even know. Right. So it could very much be that the parents were much closer than we remember. Maybe.
Because we were focused on playing Star Wars or G.I. Joe, whatever the hell it was, and they were monitoring things a little more closely than it seems like. But certainly today, there isn't a room in the house that doesn't have a camera in it, like not the least of which is your phone that you bring around with you everywhere, right?
That's right.
So yeah, and the first experience I had with a baby monitor actually wasn't even with a baby; it was with my mom, because my mom had me quite late. I think it was a mistake, but anyway, she was like 42 when she had me, which was unusual.
My mom was 35 when she had me, and I thought I was a mistake, but apparently I wasn't. I was okay.
So. I think my mom, when she was mad, told me one day that I was a mistake. I was a happy mistake, though, obviously.
Of course,
I ended up taking care of her when she was old.
Of course.
So it worked out for her.
Yes.
But she lived in my house for a while in a basement granny suite that we have. And she'd gotten some kind of an infection or something, was a little bit weak, and couldn't go to the bathroom, And I'm like, okay, well, I got to get something so she can communicate with me, other than like calling me or on the phone, having to press numbers and all this shit. I'm just talk and I'll hear you.
Right.
So I bought like not a video baby monitor, but just like an audio one. I put the receiver in her room, whatever, and the other one up in my room. I'm like, Mom, if you have to go to the bathroom, just, talk and I'll come down. I'll help you.
Yes.
I'll wake up. I'll come and help you. So we're trying this out, and I'm asleep, and I hear, in the middle of the night, I'm like dreaming, I'm asleep, and I hear,
David. It probably would have been better if your mom had actually just been, David. You know what I mean?
I know. I'm like, Mom, you don't have to don't whisper. I'm like, just say it in a normal tone of voice.
Like right there. You're like, oh my God.
Ear, whispering of my name, right?
That's great.
I've always found these things to be kind of like unsettlingly creepy.
Right.
And so, the first episode is revolves around a baby monitor that's showing stuff in the room that when the mom goes down to check it out is, like there's a different scene going on.
Right. Yeah, that was the opening of the trailer. That's
right. That is the first one. In fact, the trailer actually goes through them in sequence. So
cool.
Each part, if you look at the first part of the trailer, they're in sequence. So the second one stars Malika. From your film. And that's how I found out about her. And I'm like, this is great. These guys have found some excellent non-union actors, because the other part of doing the indie stuff is like, how do you get good actors? Because you could have whatever script and camera and all this stuff is, like going great and sound and everything, but you also need good actors.
You do.
And sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes it can be hard to find better actors who aren't in the unions because
hang on.
To have enough experience, and then they join the union and they with the better actors they join the unions and then and then they're off. When I saw your film, I'm like, great, there's 3 more actors I could like.
Well, no, it's a good point. It's a good point you made. I mean, I learned very early on too is that there's a stigma, and I'm not knocking the union, of course. This is, I mean, there's great benefits for it, and there's wonderful professionals that are a part of it. But I learned very early on in my career as an actor, moving along, I learned that there's and I would notice this, you know, at auditions or just in circles and stuff, a stigma started to evolve around sort of, part of the union, and you're not union, well, there was sort of like an elitism sort of around it, and somebody who was quite successful in being a part of ACTRA told me, said, listen, just because you're union doesn't mean you're working. And there are a lot of people that do, but it should never be used as a status. It's just part of it is the next step in your journey if you want to work maybe on certain shows or, whatever it is. And by default, if you get to work on those shows, you would assume that they are of a certain caliber, but not all the time. And no, I mean, with Billy, I mean, the three of them were fantastic. Just really great chemistry. We cast them early, which I think helped us because by the time we got to set, they had already become real friends. And
it does show up on camera. So they really have a rapport together.
Yeah, we can't wait to work with them again. Just great, and great. Like great young women too, like just really smart and witty and charming and professional. Do you know what I mean? Like it's people you want to, like when the camera stops, you want to hang out with them, and
we did. I mean, we took Malika out for lunch when we had to do a dinner, when we had to do some pickup shots.
Yeah.
Like hers was a hard one to shoot because like we were filming on an airplane set.
Right.
So it looks like a full airplane,
right,
but it's not. And there's only like a really limited number of shots that we could get on a set, as opposed to a real thing that you could go in any direction, So
that's it.
It was and it was hot. It was our last day, and it's like the middle of the summer. Like we were doing this like August 20th or something like that, and the warehouse that we were shooting in was getting hot, and people were getting like hot and tired, and we couldn't shoot everywhere that we wanted to.
Of course.
It was a difficult one. And we just finished the edit on it, and it's great, and I'm really excited about it. So
awesome.
That's
it looks cool. Yeah. When she opens that door and everything is really, really red, I was like, oh, I'm getting kind of a Billy vibe. I'm feeling because it was like us, you know what I mean? But she looks great, and I can't wait to see it. And you shot this. Was it all shot down at? Is it Digital Canary? Is that what it is? Or
yes, I was just about to mention that. Yeah, 4 of the 6 films were shot on sets that are standing sets here in Hamilton, Hamilton, Ontario, where I live. And Simon Winterson, who owns Digital Canaries, has a number of properties around town, from warehouses to a banquet hall to a farm. A bunch of different spots where people can just kind of roll up and film. So a lot of music videos, a lot of like some big shows too. I mean one of the aircrafts that we were shooting on, which he's got a bunch of them in this hangar, like this warehouse that he owns, that he's leasing from the city, was leased by Apple TV. For the second season of C.
Oh, okay.
So they took this fuselage of a cargo plane and aged it by basically like 300 years for the show.
Right.
And when they were done with it, they brought it back, and we're like, hey, this looks cool. So suddenly we have like this.
It looks great.
This fully art directed thing to shoot on.
Yeah.
And so, and Simon's one of the producers on the series as well. So, we shot on a hospital set that he has, like it was like a period piece that we set in the 1930s. So that was actually in an old Catholic elementary school, which so he's got an entire school, which in fact, like the Hardy Boys. And Dan Brown were shooting in there. Dan Brown's show was in there in the same room that we were filming in, like a couple of days before we were, and thankfully they repainted it because it was like bright green before.
Right.
Before that. They repainted it into much more neutral colors that worked with what we wanted to do. So it just really worked out like fortuitously. So.
That's the one with the kid in the chair, right? In the
that's right.
wheelchair and the balloon. I loved I think it was maybe it was the second or third shot of the trailer, and this is what, again, and I say it was one of the first shots I noticed. I noticed Greg there, you know, and it was great because he's so talented and I mean, just so great to work with. And was the shot, and I love the lighting. I love sort of the kids in the chair and, you know, by the window, and he's just kind of playing, and it's a medium shot, you know, and, you know, he looks, it's just that light coming in. It's almost got a soft sort of, almost a dreamlike quality to it. Very, very, very subtle.
There's a lot of haze in the room. Yeah,
right,
really,
right. Love that. Love that.
Really soft.
Yeah, it was great work.
Yeah, lower contrast. Yeah, totally.
Oh, it looked great. I love that shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, and all the kids jumping around in that shot too are my daughter's friends, and my daughter was not in the province at the time that we were shooting. Otherwise, she would have been in that one.
Right.
But my daughter does actually make a cameo appearance in the first episode tomorrow. She's the kid is sleeping in the bed basically.
Okay, so, very cool. I'm gonna have to look out for it. That's awesome.
So I've enlisted, I'm like child labor now, and I had to pay her. I had to pay her in like
ice cream,
and Hatchable Pixies and ice cream, and like I have to learn how to make a balloon animal now. I kept like the balloon pump and the and the balloon and the special balloons that you have to make those balloon animals with.
Yes. So you can bend them and turn them and
So I have a bag of them left over from the shoot. Now I have to learn how to make one for my daughter. Well, that was part of the payment for we're sleeping basically. Right. Yeah. So she totally owned me on that one. Oh. She got a whole bunch of stuff. But and then the other sets that we filmed on at Digital Canaries, so there was the airplane stuff in episode 2. There was the hospital set in episode 4. And then in episode 5, Pitter Patter, we're using the school as a school. There's a janitor cleaning up after hours, and he starts to hear things and chasing it around the school until he finds what it is that he was chasing.
Right.
And in episode 6, the finale, it's called Soul Sucker, and that takes place in an interrogation room, and that was in the same building, the old Catholic elementary school. So we managed to film actually 3 of the 6 shorts in one location, which was great because we got to load in on one day, leave all the big stuff there, take the camera home, and then come back and and just sort of be. And I mean, it was hot too, but because it's summer and it's not air conditioned anymore, but the convenience of it and being so close to home and everything. I mean, like I couldn't have done this without Simon and the Digital Canary sets and stuff. So I mean, if you're in the Toronto area, like the standing sets that they have available to filmmakers are just like, really, there's nothing else like it. Like they're in the whole area. So
it's amazing.
And it's such a great deal too. Like like you get control of the entire like space when you're shooting there, and nothing else will shoot in it. So it's you're not competing with people, and like it's amazing.
I can imagine because when I went to the Digital Canaries website and I looked at sort of all the sets that they offer, and that's just like some of it, obviously, right? And I'm going through it and I'm like, wow, like these are fully functioning, fully decked out. I mean, obviously you can change some things around if you need to, but these are like, it's just like it reminded me, not to go back to Billy again, but it makes sense. It reminded me of when we were shooting Billy. We're in one location. We're at this house in the middle of nowhere for a week, and the owners were not there. We had the run of the house. I mean, the run of the house minus their quarters, of course, but it felt like, and in some ways it was, even though it's not, it felt like we were shooting on a set. And we had full control, and we could leave things set up. We could leave the track there because we were coming back to it the next day, or the jib, or whatever. And so I can, having had that experience with Billy, I can imagine how incredible that must have been for you guys to be able to just, at the end of the day, not with every shoot, but we, like, you said, with 3 of them at the very least, knowing that, we can come back to this. We don't have to, we got to end now because we got 2 hours. We got to, we got to tear shit down.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And, and when you're doing stuff like this, like the unit moves are a big time sucker, like when you're doing low budget indie kind of filmmaking like this, like, you don't really have the number of people to move things quickly.
Yeah.
When you have to do a loadout, it takes a while.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to do that in the middle of the day in between other things that you're doing, you're going to lose like 2 hours, out of a 10, 12-hour day kind of thing. So, and I was trying to keep the days shorter as much as possible because, like, it's a low budget thing. People are working for less money. Some people were doing things for free too, and lending us gear, and so like I don't like doing long days. I don't like working people to the bone. I don't think that people appreciate that, and I don't think that it, like, when people don't feel well, they don't work. They don't bring their energy to it, and you can feel it. Like, you can feel it on set when people are tired and and pissed off and stuff. So I like to kind of keep the hours like shorter, and the page count shorter if I can.
Yes.
And on this I could, we did 6 days of shooting, so we did 1 episode a day basically, and we did a couple of pickup days just for shots that I figured out we needed after the fact, like when we were in editing, but for the most part, everything was shot in 6 days. And that's 3 pages a day. Like, these are all under 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And amazingly, in the edits, like when I get to the end of the first cut, I'm like, it's just at 3 minutes.
Right.
Oh, I gotta like trim 10 seconds off for the titles.
Right.
But I'm amazed at like how close it is to the page count.
Right.
Like it's actually been pretty much like a minute a page, like exactly, which is great. Like,
and
like,
how long did it take you to shoot each episode, would you say?
But it was 1 day. Like
one day each episode. Oh yeah, 6 days, 6 episodes. Right.
Yeah, 1 day an episode. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Hear that, folks?
Yeah.
3 minutes, 1 day.
Yeah.
It's tough. It ain't easy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, like, we had 1 short day, like it was really short, and that's the final episode because it takes place in 1 room and it's a dialogue scene. So once we got it a few different times, it like the actors, brought everything, and we're not going to keep redoing that over and over again because it's a 1 camera shoot, and they already gave everything. They're not going to bring it like 500 times, and but the other one, like they were also different, like, and that was part of the fun of it too, is that every day we were doing something like completely different,
right?
Like a very different feel, different actors, different story, different location, different, like, even just like the way we're moving the camera around and everything was kind of more key to the story. So I would love to do more of these, honestly. Like, if we can.
I think it's going to catch on. I do.
I mean, I hope so. Like, I'd love to do more of them. I'd love to do a longer season. Like 6 is short,
right? But it's a good trial run.
That's what I could afford to do, as sort of a first thing. And these are really, really specific to social media. Like, I didn't design these to be kind of film festival shorts, like they're digestible little things. There's not a lot of character development. Like, they start, they get into it, and then they resolve, and it's all very fast, but still pretty, like, I mean, to me anyway, I mean, I'm biased obviously, but I mean, they feel pretty impactful.
Right.
Like, I've edited 3 of them now.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow, it's like, I don't know, like, like, I love that short little format like that. Like, it's such a challenge to get things like so, and I find the editing is fun. Like, it's just like, what else can I shave off? I have to get in under 3 minutes because TikTok has a 3-minute limit,
right?
And that was part of my thinking around this, is like, I want to put these on TikTok, and I know you hate vertical video as much as I do.
You saw my post.
Right here, let me do some vertical video.
It should be illegal.
I know it should, but that is the TikTok platform. Yeah. So I am doing center cut versions of these films for TikTok, and the trailer's been doing pretty good on there, and it's getting a lot of views and a lot of likes and stuff. So So I'm excited to release the film, like a vertical version of the film, only for TikTok.
Right.
And everywhere else will be basically CinemaScope
Right.
crop.
I I know. I even, Bruce and
Yeah.
he said,
Yeah.
do you think we should do the vertical? Because this is back when we were cutting the trailers for Billy, and I was like, no,
Yeah.
we're not fucking
Yeah.
doing that. And I put my foot down, and I was
Yeah.
like, no, we're going full, even though maybe I should have, but no, I totally get it. I totally understand why
Yeah.
you do that. It
Yeah.
makes sense. What would you say is if you could pick one, and it might be hard because you don't want to give any spoilers away yet, but what episode would you say that you're leaning to, or maybe you're not done editing them all yet either, right?
No, I'm half done.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would you say at this moment do you think is or might end up being your personal favorite?
Oh yeah, I don't know. That's hard. It's
like six
they're
of your
very
children.
different. Yeah, it is. Yeah, like they're very different. They're all very different. And I don't yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I can't answer that. I don't really know which one. I don't. Like I honestly don't know which one.
Are there
is gonna
any
be
episodes that are going to be surprising for the audience? It's kind of like, oh, interesting.
Well, I hope all of them.
Right.
But
I'm trying to tiptoe around. I don't want to. I'm trying to get, but I don't want spoilers, and I'm trying to kind of.
Yeah, no, I don't want to give it. I mean, they're 3 minutes long.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of, there's like one thing that I can tell you that would spoil it for all of them.
Right.
So I don't want to talk about it too much.
I gotcha.
But yeah.
The title is great too, by the way. Creepy Bits.
Yeah,
title.
thank you. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Greg and I both. I think we came up with that together. Like, I think we had creepy something else before that, and it was kind of taken. And then we're like, oh, what about bits? And then bite-sized horror kind of fit into that and everything. So yeah, and they are short. Like they're not. They're not. Doesn't take long to watch one.
But what's cool about this kind of thing is that you could, if it ever took off, you could, and I understand that creepy bits make sense for, to have it 3 minutes. That's very bit. But you could even if this thing took off, and let's dream a little bit here. Okay. So let's say it takes off and, Netflix is interested or something, right? Or Amazon Prime or something, right? And they're like, but we don't know if we want to do 2 minutes. That's not really our style. Maybe we'll do 22-minute episodes. What's cool though, is that even in a 22-minute episode, you could still keep the name Creepy Bits because it's not feature length. And for me, I mean, I don't know, but for me, it's still kind of, the bit still works in that runtime kind of thing. Kind of feels like it would still work. Who knows? Maybe they'd be like, no, great, don't change it. We'll just do it in 2 minutes stuff. I don't know. I mean, are there 2-minute episodes of anything on Netflix or I'm not sure.
No, I think Shudder has some shorter.
Shudder does. Maybe Shudder might be interesting in it.
Maybe not 3 minutes. Yeah. But
yeah. Shudder. I could see it being to Shudder. Yeah. Actually, you know what? It might be perfect for something like Shudder. Yeah. I never thought of that. And they might take it as is, which would be cool. Yeah. It's a great idea.
Yeah. I'm at the point now where I'm really trying to, especially the night before the premiere, I'm really trying to just get rid of any expectations about it whatsoever and just be like, I'm just making this thing and I'm putting it out there, and at an absolute minimum, I've got some cool stuff from my reel.
100%.
Yeah, and that's important. It is important to me to have that. I am unrepresented at the moment. I need an agent. I want to work in television. That's my ultimate kind of goal.
Right.
And me creating a series and directing 6 episodes is useful to me, period.
Right.
Right. No matter what happens with this, whatever people think of it, they like it, they hate it, whatever.
Yeah.
They share it or they don't. It's still useful to me. And that's, and that is part of the reason why I did it. I need more stuff. I need more experience. I need more, just things to put out into the world. And I really wanted to just kind of throw it into the interwebs and just see what the hell happens, you know.
No, I get it.
And a lot of the times it feels like pissing in the wind, you know. You're trying to get attention to this. You know, I have a publicist and stuff, but it's still hard to get people to pay attention to stuff. Like, there's no stars. I'm not any kind of recognizable name,
right?
You know, so it's like, who cares, right? Like,
right.
There really is a big who the fuck cares?
Yeah,
that you made a web series. Good for fucking you, right? Really, who the fuck cares?
Who fucking cares, man?
Right?
Okay.
Yeah, man. So, like, you know, you spend all these months and months of your life making these things, and then you put them on. There's always a chance you're going to put it on the internet, and it's just like, you know, like, okay, and nothing happens.
Absolutely,
at all.
but
people watch it, and your friends go, "Yeah, you're so great."
Yeah, but I'm gonna say this to you, David. I'm gonna say this. Having been doing the YouTube thing. Like, I've had the channel since 2006. I guess I was one of the first to have a channel, but I never did anything with it. I mean, I'd upload little, you know, Halloween shit, but I never really did anything with it until I started, I guess it was 2017. I started to put my face out there more and do this kind of thing. And if there's one thing, I've learned a lot doing this thing about fandom and fans, and you're definitely, there's always, you know, you saying, I'm just going to put it out there, and, you know, you don't, and it's true. There's always going to be somebody go, oh, this sucks. You know?
Yeah, totally.
It's always going to happen. It's just going to happen. You know, we got it with, you know,
I've seen this.
Yeah. Oh, this is dumb. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Well, it's dream sequence.
All the time. And, but then you get people that are like, I totally get it. You know what I mean? Like, there's the spectrum of people is unbelievable, you know, different. And I say this and I'm not talking about anybody watching right now. I'm just talking in a general sense. The spectrum.
I'm talking about you, Frank.
I'm talking. That's right, Frank Riker, right there. I'm talking about Frank. I can say that actually to Frank, and he'll laugh. But it's,
I don't know Frank at all. I just saw his name on there.
But it's
sorry for picking on you, Frank.
The spectrum of fans is fascinating. But I've also learned, having done this for, I guess, almost 5 years now, that you never know who's watching you.
Right.
And I've had people reach out to me that work in the business or work in positions or are connected to certain people that I didn't know watched me. And listen, I know there are people that watch me and probably hate my guts. Look at that arrogant, self-centered, egotistical prick or whatever, right? You know, even though I'm not that way at all, but, you know, it could be just my theatrics, I guess. But, you know, and you get those people too, obviously, but there are people that have reached out to me, writers, filmmakers, you know, people who work in the business who I'm like, really? You watch me? Like, really? You know, I'm like, uh-oh. You know, where I'm like, wow, like I didn't know that, you know? And so you never know who's watching, you know? And I said that about Billy, you know, to Bruce. I said, you know, we put it out there and you never know who's watching and who's you know, who's seen it or you know, what have you, you know, and I can't say too much at the moment, but Bruce and I are working on something, which hopefully we'll be able to have more info soon, hopefully, which is actually a direct result of something like that. So,
awesome.
So hopefully I'll be able to share more with you soon, because
I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, it's fun stuff. So, but again, like, you never know, you know, you just don't know. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but it's, I think the thing I've learned too is, and you know, I have pretty thick skin. It takes a lot to get under it. You know, but you just have to learn to kind of roll the punches, and not everybody's going to like what you do. And you know, it is what it is. And you know, but
I fully expect that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's always going to be somebody that's like, no, this is dumb.
Yeah. Everything you do. I mean, there's always
3 minutes. That's it.
Okay. Whatever. I don't know.
Whatever.
People project their shit onto you.
It's so because the internet has made it.
Most days I have a pretty thick skin.
Yeah, the internet has made it so easy to just not be accountable. You know, you just say whatever you want, and you know, there's no repercussions for it. You know.
Yeah.
And it's like, Yeah. But I have, it looks really good. And I'm excited to see it. I'm really excited to see it. And if it does well, I mean, yeah, I mean, you could be in season 2 next year, maybe, or something like that. I don't know. Do you have any ideas?
I mean,
do you have any ideas for a potential season 2?
Oh yeah. There's lots that we weren't able to do. There's just because of the budget constraints. Like I pretty much self-financed it, and it was pretty expensive.
Yeah, I bet.
I haven't worked much in the past year and a bit. So like whatever money I did make pretty much went into this. And
right.
there's some debt as well.
Gotcha.
Making. So,
yep.
So but yeah, no, I mean like actually I happened to co-own a houseboat with my brother-in-law, and I'm like, being out on a lake on a boat at night is fucking scary as hell.
It is.
And this is a boat you can sleep on. It's got like cabins and stuff. So it's like I would love to do a horror movie set on a boat on a lake kind of thing.
Yeah.
We've seen cabin on lakes, and we houses and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, it just
I like it. You're talking my language.
You hear sounds all the time when you're on there, like things hitting the pontoons and just other kinds of like noises. And even when you're tied up to islands too, like they're deserted, and there's animals and whatever else going on over there. And even though there's cottages nearby, like where you are might be absolute wilderness, That's
right.
And there's always, I don't know, like it's some kind of a human thing about just being alone in the woods, like it's lovely, it's beautiful, but it's also a little bit like, like I'm alone. Yeah. And if I get hurt, it's a long way from getting help.
Well, there's a vulnerability to it,
Very much, yeah. And so the setting of it, and being on the lake and just with a boat you can sleep on, and it's something I want to do in the future when I, if there's money to do another season. And like, I think when Greg and I were brainstorming this thing, there was a couple of hundred different like scenarios that we came up with, just in terms of not stories necessarily, but just sort of setting things that are unsettling or that we find creepy or whatever, and for the first season, we really just kind of like set it based on what we had access to in terms of cool locations, because like, a big part of, I think, like making indie films is having somewhere to shoot it. Yep. And certainly you guys, like, you picked a great freaking place to shoot your film. I mean, that's 90% of the art direction was already done.
That's just it.
Where you picked to do it, right?
I found that on Set Scouter.
Yeah. Because like there's only so much you can shoot in your house, but it's like it's drywall, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not very interesting, right?
Right.
Like it's like background for me to like be moving around on a interview or something. Yeah. But it's not very interesting filmically. It doesn't have a lot of text or depth or like interest or or anything.
That's it. Yeah.
The art direction kind of part of it. And so when you can find places to shoot that are already kind of just amazing places just because of how they are, just like in episode 3 of Creepy Bits, it's all underground in tunnels,
Yeah.
And these tunnels are in a warehouse in Hamilton here that were originally in a building that was designed by Nikola Tesla to house a whole bunch of hydroelectric equipment.
Wow.
That was taking power generated from the Niagara Falls like generating stations, which were brand new at the time, and bringing it in to Toronto and Hamilton. There used to be a railway called the Toronto Hamilton Buffalo Railroad, the THB. So like this whole area, the whole Niagara, Toronto, Hamilton, Buffalo corridor, were all connected. And this power was brand new. And they needed a substation in the city, and so there were underground tunnels that housed all this hydroelectric equipment at the time. Wow. And the equipment's all gone, but the tunnels are still there.
How long are these tunnels?
They're long, man. Oh yeah, they're like a couple hundred feet long, some of them.
Wow, that's amazing.
And there's two different parts of the building. So there's one part that has stone tunnels and another part that has like brick arch tunnels that almost look like the Paris catacombs or something like that.
Right.
And a friend of mine is leasing the building to build a film studio there. and he's still trying to put the funding together and stuff. But like he let us film in the tunnels, like because the other location that we had set up for that particular short fell through. So like getting back to the relationships and and kind of like like I could do a story like that somewhere else, but it's a lot more interesting to have a cool place to shoot it in.
For sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And it adds so much production value to what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, where the fuck is that? Like, where is this place? Like, we just finished the edit on that one today, and I got the music score from Adrian Ellis, who's a Hamilton-based composer, and I think president of the Screen Composers Guild of Canada. Like, he's amazing. Like, in half a day, this guy gives me a score that's like giving me goosebumps the whole time that I watch it.
Wow, that's awesome.
That wasn't happening when I was watching it.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to keep that guy in mind. I'm sticking his name right up here. That's amazing.
Oh, he's great. Adrian Ellis. Yeah.
Adrian
and Charles Tilden. I know we're talking, but no, it's good to give shout out to the crew. Charles Tilden did the sound effects and he was the location recordist and also the re-recording mixer too. So
yeah, he's
doing pretty much all the sound.
Wow.
On these guys, and they sound great, man. Like they sound really great, and and like you, I think I really I think that's like so much part of the story.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. People are more likely to watch just an everyday YouTube videos. I mean, even just a show like this, most people are likely to watch, subpar video, but great audio. Like if your audio is crap, I mean, it just brings everything down,
Really does,
there's nothing worse than watching, and we've all seen it. I mean, you watch a film that, maybe it is shot on the Red or the Erie or something, and you're like, wow, or, a real, I don't know, like something, a Canon C300 or something that's, really good. And it looks really good and it's color corrected well. And, but then all of a sudden the audio is just inconsistent, and, you can hear sort of the ambient room noise sort of, change from, shot to shot within the same space. And you're like, oh man, I don't think it's funny, as I'm sure, you have as well. I've received a lot of, messages over the years from people asking about, what kind of camera, what kind of this, what kind of that. Nobody ever asks about sound. Nobody.
Yeah, it's surprising. I know. It's like I've always really cared a lot about it, and again, it comes back to like the Blade Runner influence for me is pretty strong. Like, and I know it's a very popular film now, but like I've been watching it for a long time. I'm like an original fan when it comes to Blade Runner, and that Vangelis score is both sound effects and music at the same time. And they blend together all the time. There's little things happening subconsciously in the cues.
It's otherworldly.
That are matching the visuals in these more like non-diegetic ways, right? Like these non-obvious ways. And I love that. I love when sound just like takes you into a different like dimension.
Yes.
A film like that. And there's very, very, very few films that can do it on that level, on that kind of Vangelis Blade Runner level,
I really appreciate when a soundtrack, and you don't get this too much anymore, when the score or the soundtrack, whatever that is, whether it's through music or sound design or a combination of both, it becomes identifiable. I mean, there's so many movies that are released today in multiple genres that, if I heard the soundtrack to that film, I would have no idea what film it's from. It just sounds like, it's good music, but it just sounds sort of pedestrian and just sort of cinematic score of some kind, but I wouldn't be able to immediately identify. And there's something that's said about having a specific sound or, and it doesn't have to be enough or excuse me, a lot. I mean, you take the original Black Christmas and there was no score in that film. It was just a bunch of piano scrapes, just, and there was no score to that movie. And, you know, you hear it and you're like, oh, that's Black Christmas. You know, it's so immediately identifiable, and it's eerie, you know, and I miss that. I miss when horror films especially had not just the theme necessarily, like the Halloween theme and all that, but just real sort of identifiable tones.
Too. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying, man. That's a huge thing. I hope that Creepy Bits brings a little bit of that to bear. It's certainly something that we're aiming for, and I think the scores that Adrian is doing are it's something specific about it. Like there is sort of a theme kind of tune to what he's doing that's kind of playing across all of them.
Is that really what we hear in the trailer?
Yeah, that plays whenever the titles show up. That little there's a little piano cue there, so that'll be in every episode. But even just in the way that I think he approaches it, there's a feeling of consistency from, like, I'm only on episode 3,
right?
In terms of the editing, but all 3 of them have something that kind of unites it in terms of the approach. And,
there's a theme, not just in theme, but an overarching sort of
And there's a number of instrument sounds that are being kind of used in different ways that I really like. Like he's a very high level composer, and I'm really grateful to be working with him on this. And the same way that Greg is a very masterful controller of light.
Oh my God. He's so good.
And brings so much to the stuff that we do, and I think everything that I've done so far has been made better because Greg's worked on it with me,
I mean, I've only worked with him once, and I can't wait to work with him again. He's I truly believe that, and that's not kissing ass. I mean, that's a real objective, well, subjective as well. I mean, having worked actually with him, but I firmly believe that half the battle of success is surrounding yourself with the right people. And, it's easier said than done, obviously. But it was to watch Greg work and to watch him work with Nikita and everybody that was involved was, I mean, I remember, I think I've told this before, but I remember myself and Bruce would take turns on certain scenes, and we were shooting the porch scene, and I said cut, and I guess I was so involved in the moment, everybody just kind of turned and looked at me, and I was like, oh yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, no, that's good. We're done. I was just kind of like, I wasn't, you know what I mean? It was a very sort of surreal experience. But Greg, and he's a great problem solver, I find. We were having an issue. There was a scene because originally we wanted to keep the camera on the Ronin and sort of pull back as Victoria is walking towards the camera. We were going to pull back and we were going to sort of turn around and settle, and Malika was going to come into frame, and we were going to kind of settle down. Like it was going to be one shot kind of thing. We were ambitious in this movie. And Greg was like, I don't think it's going to work. And we were like, you're probably right. But he came up with a great alternative, and he's great. He's great. He's just amazing.
Yeah.
Total pro. Listen, before do you have a few more minutes?
Oh yeah, no.
Because I wanted to jump over to the chat room, and if you, cool. If you guys in the chat room have any questions for David, now would be the time to get them in. Whatever about his career, about creepy bits, horror, sci-fi, whatever you want to ask him. Within reason, folks, within reason. We will take those questions. And is there anything else while those people are gnawing on that? Anything else about creepy bits you want to say, or anything else you want to say in general?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm excited to start putting them out there. Like we're doing one a week until Halloween, basically. So it's every Friday, and then Halloween's on a Sunday night. So the final one will not be on a Friday; it'll be on Sunday of Halloween. Yeah, and I don't know, man. Again, this is the first time that I've done straight release to the internet. So, and I'm excited by that. I'm excited by that kind of direct connection to it, because like with film festivals, festivals, you're waiting and you're waiting, and there's a lot of rejection in there, and then you get into a few, and it's great, and you go, and people watch it, it's fun. Go to a party, and it's over.
Right, right.
It's
Yeah.
just like it's just done. And I don't know. I'm excited to just like see what happens with these things and
Yeah.
see if they have any life, if they continue to have a life on the internet past Halloween. Like obviously there's a seasonal tie-in right now that's timely.
Right.
But beyond that, like, people want to watch, creepy, scary shit all the time.
Yeah, they do.
I found even during the pandemic, like, I found myself wanting to watch more of it, and then people are like, "Oh, I gotta watch like comedy. I can't like take it. Trump's the president. Everything's going to
It's okay. It's all right. It's fine.
Like, yeah." And everybody's like stressed out and not wanting to watch like crazy shit. And I'm just like, give me Mandy,
Yeah, yeah, that's right. But see, that's the true side of a horror. That's the true side of a horror film. Like I remember I said this to Bruce, and he was like Bruce likes horror, definitely. He appreciates it. I wouldn't say that he's a horror guy. I would say he's more sci-fi, which of course is like a direct cousin to to horror. But I remember he hasn't seen this movie, and I don't know if you have. But I watched I guess about a year and a half ago. I watched the movie Terrifier for the first time. That independent film. No, it was an independent film, slasher film, very gory, very very gory. And I think it was crowdfunded, I believe, maybe shot for, I don't know, 100K or something. They have a sequel that's coming now. They raised a few $100,000 for it. There's a sequel coming, I think, later this year or maybe next year or something. Anyway, the main antagonist is Art the Clown. It's kind of like a Pennywise kind of thing. You know what I mean? And but he's, he looks different, obviously. Anyway, he's a serial killer. He's a murderer. And it's very gory, very graphic. I mean, there's, just let's put it that way. It's very, very graphic. So I told Bruce a bit about what was in it. And I said, I watched it and I thought it was all right. It was fine. And I turned it, I'm in bed and I watch it and there's all this graphic stuff coming at me. And I went, it's good. And I rolled over and I went to sleep, slept like a baby. Didn't affect me. And when I told Bruce what was in it, like some of the graphic stuff, he was like, "Oh my God, I couldn't do that. I couldn't even, you just went to bed." I'm like, "Yeah, I just went to bed. Did you have any dreams?" "No, it's fine. It's great."
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a sign of a horror fan right there. A sign of a horror fan. Hey, there's Bruce. Bruce is in the chat.
Hey, Bruce.
Bruce says, "Shout out to David. Great to see you on the show. I'm excited to watch the series. Check it out, everyone. I wish you success." Thank you, Bruce. We were just talking about you. His ears must have been ringing. Here's a couple of questions for you, David. Warren Armour says, "Hey, David, have you always wanted to get into the movie business, etc.? Best of luck." In terms of, are there other things, maybe like, did you have a career path, or was it always like, for me, I've often said that if I wasn't, although the state of the world now, I don't know if I could. I thought I would always make a pretty good police officer. When I was younger, I thought that, because I'm a good communicator and, I might be able to like de-escalate a situation or something, whatever. The world is now, I'm like, oh my God, I'd lose it. I'd be fired. You know what I mean? But outside of that, I've always wanted to be part of the business. And I guess that's why I am. So, but for you, was there another career path or was it always this?
Well, I mean, like I said, I was in graphic design and kind of communications for quite a while. Yeah. And I think I would say that I was in I'm kind of still partly in like communications. I still have a couple of clients that I work with on the communications front. Which is broadly like a bunch of different things that involve storytelling. It's not like completely removed from filmmaking, and everything that I've done communications wise has involved filmmaking, but it's not making like original narrative kind of things.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, at least from when I was in high school, that's what I wanted to do. Like I kind of my brother died again. I told you that.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
When I was like, yeah, when I was 13. And so I had kind of a rough time in high school for a while. And it was really getting involved in the drama department
Yeah.
that kind of pulled me out of that, because it gave me a place to kind of express myself. And the teachers were amazing. They were so like loopy and just like let me do anything at all. And we did some really outrageous stuff that I would be embarrassed of now. You know?
No, really?
But yeah, but it was in our Catholic high school, and somehow, you know, not someone like, I mean, not to compare myself to Rod Serling, but Rod Serling like tried to do, you know, really like political kind of, you know, like good, like hearty, like relevant drama on television.
Right.
Was shut down
Yeah.
so hard by the networks. And then when he coded it in sci-fi and fantasy and horror,
Right.
he could do anything he wanted. When he created the Twilight Zone, suddenly he could just like do anything at all that he wanted.
He could really have social commentary in there in the guise of sort of science fiction in a way.
Yeah, and the sponsors would be like, "Yeah, here's your money."
Right,
you know?
right.
So, you know, in a very extremely different way and scale, in high school, I found a way to kind of do that, but in the drama department, you know, and putting on these silly skits at like lunchtime and like putting out and writing entire plays and like and starring in them and stuff. So I kind of wanted to do acting for a bit. And then at some point I realized I'm like, acting's hard and actors don't make a lot of money unless you're like really amazing at it. And I'm like, I think I'm gonna get into a different part of this thing. And that's what kind of led me into studying film in university and then going into production. And then actually, you know, I have a degree in digital video editing.
A degree.
Yes, this is a degree. Yes. You know, from the Toronto Film School, you know, and I graduated in like 99. So like these were like Power Macs with the
the wood burning Mac.
They were like $100,000 Avid systems that we're editing on, and they, you know, had like 4 gigabyte hard drives that everybody would share the space on.
I remember my computer in college
when we were forging our videos.
That's right. My computer in college was I think its hard drive was like 500 megabytes.
You know,
or like a gig. It might have been 1 gig or something like that.
I think the first hard drive I bought was 50 megabytes. So, you know,
you could store a lot. It's amazing what you could store on it too.
When it was Word documents and text, it was endless. But
for sure. Very cool. All right, let's see here. What do we got? Warren Armor. Oh, wait, did I miss that one? Wait, hang on a sec here. Let me go back. I had Warren Armor. Hey, David, and definitely got that one. Swifty the Gamer says, can you ask David what...
Cool. Dave just wanted to frisk people legally as a cop.
Thanks, Frank. Thanks, Frank.
I don't even know Frank.
Shh, quiet. Shut your face, Frank. Swifty the Gamer says, can you ask David what he thought of the Blade Runner sequel since he liked the first one, Blade Runner 2049? Now, I have to admit, I've still yet to see Blade Runner 2049. Harrison Ford's my favorite actor too. I've got to watch it, but I've yet to see it.
I've seen it 4 times. I saw it 2 times in the theater and twice at home, and I managed to stay awake for it fully on the last time. And I think I finally understood why they made the film on the 4th time, but it took a while. I don't hate it. I love Denis Villeneuve's stuff, you know, and I love the world, and I love Roger Deakins, and I love Harrison Ford, and I love everything about everything that they put in there. But I think just, you know, from a perspective of the story, I'm kind of like, why did they make that? Like, why did like, at the end of it, I'm just like, why the fuck did they make this movie? Right? Like, I don't feel like it really advanced anything at all. About the key kind of like world and the story. Like, it was beautiful to be in that world again. And they captured it. Like, I thought they did a really authentic job of capturing the era and this space and like the time shift, and, you know, like to go from the time that it's set in which is what, like 2019, and then in 2049, like
Right.
that you know, like it made sense. Like
Yep.
it was beautifully shot. It was, you know, lovely, all that stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of wondered, like, why, you know,
Yeah.
like
I have a
like
question for you.
it seemed a bit gratuitous to make the film. Not that, I mean, Denny Villeneuve's work on it was
Oh
incredible,
yeah,
and
for sure.
everybody craft level of film was fantastic.
Yeah.
But as an overall story, I was pretty bored by it, you know, by the end. So unfortunately,
I have a question for you, and because it's
yeah,
sort of piggybacking off of what we were talking about here, or what you were saying, and then I kind of realize the irony of what I'm about to say, because the end of Black Christmas is sort of kind of like this too, and here I've just made a sequel to Black Christmas. So I do realize the irony of kind of what I'm saying, but we'll come back to that in a second. I think for some fans, at least I feel this way. Now I've yet to see 2049.
yeah,
But it doesn't surprise me, and maybe I'd see it and feel completely differently. Like who knows, right? But it doesn't surprise me to hear you say something like that, because
yeah,
knowing the way Blade Runner ends, the first one, and sort of the whole point of the whole point of it, and I think back to the original Halloween, and I think back, and I understand from a business perspective why they do this too, but for
mm,
fans,
yeah,
do you find that some fans, and I'm not talking about everybody, but like maybe they don't understand? Like I try to tell people that sometimes when a movie ends in a certain way that is somewhat ambiguous, or
yeah,
leaves off on an unfinished note of some kind, that is the point. The point
yeah,
is to leave with you what you've seen, so you
yeah,
go home and think about it and stew over it and talk about it, and it stays with you, and you're like, what does that mean? Or maybe it means that. That is the whole point. And to
yeah,
continue a story from that, unless you have a real good sort of thing, doesn't usually add anything to it, or bode
no,
well,
yeah,
for anything. And then of course I realize the irony of what I've just said, because the end of the original Black Christmas was ambiguous and you don't know what happened. But certainly we felt that, we have a direction and there's more, or we wouldn't have done it.
yeah,
But I think in the bigger picture, with certain classic films like that, that is the point. Ambiguity is, they don't end it because they don't know what to do, or they don't end it because they're trying to make a sequel. They end it on that note because that's the point.
hmm,
Is to leave you to
yeah.
interpret.
Is he a replicant or isn't he? And
Right.
I don't know that
It's
we
never
needed
meant to
that.
be answered.
So,
Right.
yeah, and the other thing too is, like, I think Harrison Ford had a rash of films there where he's like reprising like I think we just came off of seeing him reprise his role as Han Solo, and
Mm-hmm.
that was, I don't know, for me it was pretty disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
So I just, like, I don't, like, he's old now, like he's not, I don't know, like, and nothing wrong with old people whatsoever, but I just, like, I'm like, I don't know, like why did we need to do, and what is Deckard doing now? Like,
Right.
he's just hiding out in some
I th-
weird, like, kind of creepy hotel thing, like drinking, getting drunk all the time. Like, I don't know, it didn't seem like the way that I
right.
would have imagined I
Right.
mean, it's not the way that I imagined it because I didn't write it,
Right. Right. Right.
but as a fan of the film, maybe a prequel would have been more interesting than a sequel.
Right.
Like how we got to the world of the replicants in the first place, I think is a much more interesting angle on it than what happened after,
Right.
Blade
Right.
Runner,
Yeah.
personally.
No, I
But
understand.
certainly, yeah, and the stuff that some of the shorts that they shot, I thought were pretty interesting, like with the Jared Leto character. I forget his name in the film, but and they're very high quality little shorts, and so I appreciated things about it, but I sort of wondered, like, why the hell they made it. It
Right.
didn't seem like it was a necessary thing in order to advance anything, like, significant about the story that was
Right.
useful. But so
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I mean, yeah, I know all about that. I mean, our film ends on, well, there's several shocking things that happen in our film, and There's been a couple of people that have been like, that's it? You just ended it like that? Like, no, that's not, no. Come on, it's supposed to be, we're supposed to set up, we hope, we gotta, come on, no, that's not just it. Of course not, Yeah, we have a great idea. Can't say anything, obviously, but hopefully we'll get a chance to bookend the story, because it'll all, for those of you that are like, how did the grandma get in the basement? Didn't they have a funeral? What the hell's going on? We didn't just arbitrarily do that. You have to have a direction and a place to go. But
I really hope to get to make the rest of that.
I hope so too.
I'm super excited to see it.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, it's I've touched base with. I can't say too much at the moment, but we're certainly it is our we.
You're gonna get the spoilers out of you.
It was.
You want to tell us?
It was.
You're like, spill the beans.
No, it was designed that way on purpose to. Because, I mean, if we had shot the whole thing, we would have had to have asked for, $140,000 or something, right? You know what I mean? So we wanted to do it kind of in bits, no pun intended, and sort of do it episodically, and that way kind of make it more manageable. But hopefully, I mean, there is a whole reason what's going on, and how she's down there and all that. And I mean, geez, it'd be great to get Olivia Hussey to reprise her role. I don't know if that'll happen, but we're going to try. We're going to try. And if not, I mean, I've always said that story comes first. We'll recast, obviously. It is fan fiction at the end of the day. So, but yeah, that'd be amazing. It'd be amazing. But but yeah. Anyway, what else we got? So Gary said that, and then Frank Riker, Frank said, David, what's your favorite anthology series?
Oh yeah. I don't know. I like when you just say that, nothing's like popping straight into my head. So I don't know.
What do you think of the Black Mirror series?
Oh, okay. Well, yes, absolutely. Yeah, I love it. I love Black Mirror. Thank you for leading me on that answer.
No problem.
And yeah, I guess I'm not thinking of TV series as anthology series. I'm thinking of standalone films.
Right.
I can't pull those out of the top of my head.
Right.
I can't.
I'm not.
Yeah, it's okay. No, but even if it wasn't late, I'm not the encyclopedia of things. I often get stumped by, I have to like Google things that I've watched because I forget.
Yeah.
So, I don't have that kind of like recall.
Right.
Like that. So, but yeah, no, I absolutely, I love Black Mirror. And I feel like that is the modern day incarnation of the Twilight Zone.
Oh, for sure.
And I loved the original Twilight Zone. Like I have watched every episode, and I downloaded them, and I own the DVDs, and
for sure.
I just keep watching them over and over again. So yeah. There you go.
There we go. Here's an interesting question from Stephen. It's GJINO, so Gino maybe? Gino? My apologies if I said that incorrectly. Says, what are subconscious this is an interesting question. What are subconscious reasons that would cause an individual to gravitate towards horror? That's interesting. Well, they're subconscious, so we don't know.
There you go.
There's the answer. That's, I mean, how can I know? It's subconscious. I don't know. I mean, I would say maybe, it's just a combination of nature versus nurture, right? I mean, how you grew up, what you're exposed to, certainly siblings, parents would have an influence on that, but those aren't really, those aren't necessarily subconscious. They might be subconscious to the person, and you would have to bring it to their conscious mind that's the reason. So they may not be aware of that. But I think that's what it is. Like for me, my brother Neil, like I have my siblings, apart from my younger half sister, who's 8 years younger than me. My siblings are much older than me. So my brother Neil is 9 years older than me. My brother Bob is 11, and my sister Jill is 15 years older than me. So I was born in 79. So let's say 85, I'm like, 6, right? And my brothers and sisters are already, late teens, early 20s. So, my brother Neil especially was the one who got me into horror, and Freddy and Jason and Michael and all that kind of stuff. And would I have got into that on my own? Would I have gravitated towards that? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe there's an inherent need that boys have. They see scary monsters on the screen or toys in the store or something. Maybe there's a
survival instinct.
Yeah, like exactly. Maybe that does exist. But I would say it's probably a lot of nature versus nurture, how you grew up, what you're exposed to, I would say. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like, again, bringing up the Catholic thing, like it was certainly taboo, you know, so there's a certain excitement in engaging with stuff that you're not supposed to.
Yeah.
Like, I remember, you know, this is silly, but the first time that I listened to like AC/DC's Hell's Bells on my own, like I felt like I was doing something wrong. You know?
I love AC/DC.
Stupid song.
I know, it's great.
But like, I remember I was in my mom's basement and I'm like, do 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 do, and I'm like, you know, like waiting for the demons to come out and eat me.
Well, and the album is called Back in Black, and it's just this black cover, like very ominous, sort of like I shouldn't be doing this kind of, you know, thing, you know.
but I think there is something about like sort of just doing things that are wrong,
right?
You know, and like horror plays with a lot of things that are wrong, like killing people's wrong.
It is,
like,
of course.
Hurting and torturing people's wrong.
Yes.
Like, you know. And we watch it and we enjoy it. And why is that? Like, I don't know. It's not because we're demented or sick or anything. It's like there's some satisfaction. There's some relief that comes out of it because we're in a safe place, you know.
Right.
We're not going to get hurt.
Yeah.
And we're watching the thing. We're getting all tense, and then it's like, oh, okay, you know.
Yeah.
We're actually okay. So there's some, and maybe that we're addicted to the relief of that, the endorphins or whatever it is that's released when that thing ends and that tension ends, and you're just like,
right,
you can breathe again.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like maybe that's why people go to the gym all the time. They get that endorphin rush. Like horror fans, we're like working out.
That's
like,
it. Yeah, we're working out in our Freddy Krueger masks and stuff, and we're running on.
Yeah,
on
we're so
treadmills. Like, we're committed. We're fit. Well, yeah, we're absolutely committed.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. I want to get your thoughts on this. So and I feel like I'm the only one that feels this way, but I am somebody that
likely.
Sorry. Did you say likely?
Likely?
Oh, not likely. I thought you said likely. I was like, maybe. You might be right. This might seem, but again, I don't think the average moviegoer cares. They don't think of this. But as a filmmaker, I've thought of this for years. I mean, since before I was a filmmaker, you know, as a teenager making home movies and shit. And I always was very consciously aware of this. And it used to bug me when I would watch like a spooky movie and you know, watch a scary movie, whatever, you know, and then the movie ends and then it kind of ends on like, kind of note, and all of a sudden the credits roll, but there's a song, and the song's and it emotionally it takes me, like, I'm somebody that wants to sit and sulk in that last frame of whatever it was that I was seeing, and you know, whether it's moody and atmospheric and like you know, and then if it cuts in with this like epic rock song, now that I've said that, watch creepy bits. Well, actually, we have quite a few of those, Dave. They're gonna play. but you know, I mean, but I've always felt like I've seen a lot of '80s horror movies and stuff, and I know why it's there. I mean, back then, a lot of artists would get their song over the end credits of a movie, which was a great deal for them. But from a artistic, like for me, I always like to leave the viewer, like I want the viewer to, like I want them to walk away, like when they're sitting in the theater, when they get up and they leave the theater, I want them still to feel whatever it was they were feeling on the last frame when it cut to black or it faded to black or whatever it was. And rather than breaking that tension, that emotional tension with a completely different genre of feeling, you know what I mean? Are you that way, or does it not affect you, or do you not even really think about that?
I think, I mean, I appreciate both of, like, I'm thinking of The Matrix and when it ends and it's like it goes in the Rage Against the Machine. Right. I was like,
right. But The Matrix, that's it. Yeah, it's certainly, to be fair, to your point, you are right. Like, I mean, it depends on the movie, obviously, right?
Yeah, I think it depends on the movie, but I understand what you mean, like, about wanting to carry that through and not just like, you know,
right,
like just like shove something in somebody's face just for the point of it.
Right.
obviously it worked at the end of the Matrix because it's such a
It's the
great
Matrix.
tune at the end of this like amazing, groundbreaking movie.
That's it.
And it for me, like I was like almost jumping out of my seat because I was a big Rage fan at that point in time
Right.
too. So when that came on, I was just like, yeah,
Right.
But no, like, and actually, there's a couple of I got some friends from high school who do this really, really experimental, like ambient horror kind of music. Like there's no real like overt song structure to it. It's all like these like very eerie kind of soundscapes, and they're like, "Hey man, if you want to use one of our tunes in your thing, like go ahead." And I'm like, "Well, that's kind of cool. Like maybe I will, right?"
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
And I got another friend here in Hamilton who's like a super like she does like surf goth kind of music, like it's like beach horror goth kind of music, and it's like she plays the theremin and stuff, and I'm like, there might be an episode where that's appropriate because there are a couple that end on a bit more of a lighter note. They build up a lot of tension, but then there's a bit of a funny ending, and then maybe that's like an appropriate place for it.
Right,
so
right.
I'm gonna see. Like I haven't put them in yet.
Okay.
But there's a few that have been offered, and I'm gonna see where they fit. And I don't think that I'll do it on all of them, but I might, like depending on the one. But I certainly know what you mean. Like when it comes out of the blue like that, you're sitting in this feeling, and then it's like,
it's like, I want to.
Don't do that. I want to sit here.
Yeah, for me, I want to sit there. You know what I mean? Like it'd be like, maybe this is an extreme example, but in Billy when she's like, "Grandma," and we cut to black, and it'd be like, what? No. Yeah. That'd be funny, actually. I should re-release the movie at Christmas with Back in Black at the end. Or where,
and then it gets a million hits.
And a million copyrights. Or when they're driving. They're driving to the house. Back in Black.
Well, AC/DC's not Metallica, so they might be okay with you stealing their music.
Maybe you might be right. Okay, a couple more here before we call it a night. Jason Case says, this is pretty good. Says, what horror cliches do you think what horror cliches you think should quit being used? So stop. Yeah, what horror cliches do you think they should just stop using?
Sexual assault stuff, like definitely, like anything to do with like just like using women's bodies as sexual vehicles as a way to just like for scare and for horror. I think I think it's over.
Yeah,
I really do. And it's not to say that isn't scary territory, but it shouldn't be, male directors putting that in all the time. And that was certainly a thing for the longest time, like this rape fantasy type stuff that ended up in a lot of horror. That's really just gratuitous and not making any kind of real statement or political point. So that's something that I would, right off the top of my head, that I would pull out.
I agree with you. And I'm like I said, I'm pretty thick-skinned, and I watched. And listen, I understand that there's an audience for it. I get it. I understand that at one time these were, especially back in the 70s, more of the exploitation sort of films. The I Spit on Your Grave and which was about actually I think there was, I don't know how, I think there were 2 or 3 modern ones about a woman who was raped, and obviously, and it's very graphic, and she does get her revenge and her redemption, and I guess you could live vicariously through that. But even as somebody who is pretty thick-skinned, and I'm pretty, I'm not a prude or anything like that, and I support artistic expression and being able to you should be able to express yourself. Even for me, I remember I watched, I think one of the more modern ones, and I was sitting there and I was thinking, I just was like, I don't know what the point is now. Do you know what I mean? Like, I guess sort of kind of what you're saying is that I'm watching this and I found myself kind of thinking, I'm not scared. I'm just sort of repulsed and kind of like, you know, there are other ways to, like, I know it's frightening, but there are other ways now to sort of create a frightening scenario that you could have a redemption arc in. It just seems, you know, the world changes and you know, and again, but that doesn't mean listen, there's a market for everything, you know, but I get your point. I do see what you're saying, and you know, it can be tough to watch, and nowadays, especially, you know, and how if the filmmaking techniques are so polished and so well done, I mean, it can trick you into thinking that it's very real, you know, and it can be frightening for sure. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
I absolutely agree. Let me see here. You didn't what else we got?
I watch different genre movies besides sci-fi and horror. Yeah,
oh yeah,
totally.
Of course.
Yeah, I watch a bit of everything, you know.
Yeah.
Musically too, I'll listen to pretty much anything.
Yeah.
Like even like older country. Like I'm not a huge fan of like modern pop country so much, but like
right.
You know, Patsy Cline and like
Patsy Cline's great.
Yeah, like, you know, like older stuff. Kenny Rogers. I saw somebody like putting the lyrics of The Gambler up there.
Really?
I actually love Kenny Rogers.
Really? In the chat here?
Yeah, there was. I don't know when it was, like way up there. I glanced over and I saw it.
That's on a warm summer's.
In my head, like on a train bound. Yeah.
You gotta know when to hold them. No. Yeah. Well, you know, and what I love about that song is that it's yes.
We're talking about Kenny Rogers on your horror.
We are because I'm saying what I love about the song, and I picked up on this when I was a kid. I was pretty astute. I picked up on this as a kid. Is that I didn't really think of this.
It's a great story. It's storytelling.
It's a great story, and yes, it is. If you take it literally, it is about gambling. But at the end of the
there's something else going on.
But but so many people are like, no, yes, it's about life. It's about life, man. It's about life. I know, shocking, isn't it? Shocking, but you're astute.
Actually, I just learned this now. I didn't actually know it was about.
Get at it! No, come on. Wait a sec. Where's my? Hang on. I gotta pump this out here. Here we go.
Okay. Oh, nice. Yeah.
I have to get in there. I have to get that in there all the time. Chester Franklin. Oh no, you did read that one, David. You watched different genre movies besides horror, so you did get that one. All right. Well, you know what? I mean, that's a good spot to leave it, I think. Stick around. We'll have a more formal goodbye after we go off the air. But David, seriously, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is fun.
Really appreciate your time. You're always welcome to come back. And I'm very excited to watch Creepy Bits tomorrow, folks. The first episode of Creepy Bits drops tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Creepy Bits TV YouTube channel.
That's great. And also on other social media channels. And if you really want to watch it in vertical, you can catch it on TikTok.
Who doesn't want to watch this? All that hard work of those wide angle lenses are just watching here. Just watch it like that.
You know what? Actually, it's not as bad as I thought it would be. Like I really did expect it to be kind of worse, but when I did a center cut of the trailer, I was like, I don't know, it's kind of watchable. So like, I don't know. I have very strong feelings about it as well.
Yeah.
As you do, but I'm also just like, I don't know, like it's not the only version of it. It's not the version I would show to people if I had a choice, but there's an audience there. And you know, I want to try and connect with them and just,
for sure.
And just throw that there and just see what happens. Because watching you know widescreen videos on TikTok when it's like cropped down to like this big on your phone,
right?
Like, that's no fun. It isn't any fun.
No.
And there's something about having the faces be so much bigger and closer.
No, it makes
a different kind of experience.
It makes perfect sense. I you know, whatever film we do next, I'll I'll probably do this. I don't have a TikTok channel, but I'll probably.
We have video evidence now that you just said that.
We do. And my joke is that, I never shut up. I'm always talking. So I can't have a TikTok channel. It cut me off in mid-sentence. I don't have enough time. There's not enough time. A TikTok channel?
Yeah. They expanded it from 1 minute to 3, which is the only reason why I'm on the platform.
So I can get like a quarter of whatever I have to say out. Well, that's good. That makes me feel a lot better. But I
economical.
I totally understand it though. My comment was really my social media comment about vertical video should be illegal was more of the people, just regular people that are always like, look, honey, look. Like this. I'm like, oh God, to turn it sideways. What are you doing? I can't see anything.
I'm the same way. I'm exactly the same way. We are basically clones of each other. Man.
That's it. Yeah, that's totally it. And the Greg commented and gave a link to the video that the channel Glove and Boots did. I didn't know. I thought I was the only one that knew about Glove and Boots.
Oh no, I love that. Yeah, it's so funny. It's like, what are we gonna like make vertical theaters?
They have like 2 eyes on top of each other. It's so good. My girlfriend introduced me to that channel, and it was like we just have a riot.
I actually showed that I was doing a communications training for a bunch of comms professionals. And, I actually showed that vertical video as a video like thing, as a reason not to do it. And here I am now, a few years later, making a center cut of my film.
But it makes sense though. Like it makes sense for them.
Sense. Everything makes sense, I guess. But I'm surprised by it as much as
no, that's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wish you the best of luck. Tomorrow I'm going to be watching for sure, and I will awesome. I'll share the first episode tomorrow as well. And get it around, and the link to the trailer, folks, is in the description. But I think I can also, can I put the oh no, that's not it. That's the Zoom link. Come on it.
Yeah.
Come on, everybody. Let me quickly get the link to the Creepy Bits trailer again before we sign off, and put that in the there it is. Copy and paste. Go back over here, and where we are. Dun, 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 dun. There we are. Okay, folks. Yeah, if you haven't yet checked out the trailer, I should say, to Creepy Bits, the series, the bite-sized web series. That's the link there in the description or in the chat room. If you've not checked out the trailer, please do so. First episode drops tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. TikTok, Instagram, I'm assuming as well. Yeah, all over the place.
Vimeo, I mean, we're not doing much with Vimeo, but the highest quality version of it will certainly be on Vimeo, and then YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and Vimeo. Yeah.
Amazing. Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you, David. Pleasure talking to you. Yeah. And thank you, everybody. Stick around though, because we can say goodbye.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah. Bye. Bye. No, that's what I'm talking about. I have this anxiety. No, folks, have a great rest of your evening, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you for the questions. You guys are awesome, but you know you are. All right. In the meantime, and in between time. Cheers.
Bye, everyone. Thank you. Good.